On Wednesday, a Gazette notification by the Ministry of Finance announced that virtual digital assets, including cryptocurrencies, would now be under the ambit of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. This is said to have widespread impact on the now ailing crypto industry. Our correspondent Akanksha Chaturvedi caught up with Yarek Yakubche, currently the head of law enforcement at Binance and formerly an analyst at Europol, to understand this issue.
My first question is about the latest notification by India's Finance Ministry. They bought crypto transactions under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So what do you think? Is this move a positive one for the industry, or is it going to slow down the growth of the industry, and how is it going to impact cyber frauds and financial transactions like that? So let us know, please.
Yeah, thank you. This is a good question. Of course, generally speaking, at Binance, we do welcome opportunities to actively engage with regulators, and we definitely do support clear rules of the game, clear regulations, because, of course, we believe that there has to be a set of defined rules by which cryptocurrencies have to behave. So having a clear regulatory framework is definitely a step in the positive directions. And of course, Binance and other large cryptocurrency exchanges will have to carefully study these rules and behave accordingly. When it comes to the actual cooperation with law enforcement and compliance and fighting criminals, I believe there won't be too many surprises in this end, because Binance is already compatible with legislation in many other jurisdictions, and often we go far above of what is necessary. So we can then, of course, discuss the individual compliance bits and pieces if we have time to go into greater details.
So since you just mentioned that Binance has several times, cooperated with law enforcement agencies and governments to curb money laundering, could you tell us about a few instances where they worked with the Indian agencies, say the Enforcement Directorate, to curb cyber fraud in India?
Indeed. And as you can imagine, like somebody who has 12 years of experience and moved to Binance last year, it is of really great personal importance for me to support law enforcement investigations around the world. So I have to say that we do support criminal investigations in India and other jurisdictions. So far, we have had a very positive experience supporting Enforcement Directorate investigations, as well as working with other law enforcement agencies. Example of such practical cooperation would be our support of the e-nuggets investigation, investigation that has generated a lot of media interest over the last few months. And during this investigation, we have provided extensive support to Enforcement Directorate, often under very short deadlines. And as you have noticed in the media, our cooperation led to identification of the suspects and ultimately led to a substantial seizure of funds. So this was one of the great examples of the public-private cooperation.
What are your views on CBDCs? And do you think, like governments say that they'll help in curbing down money laundering, they'll help in curbing down cyber fraud? What's your take?
Yeah, of course, this is a question for the governments to implement. So it would be kind of patronizing from my perspective as a cryptocurrency investigator working for a private company to basically give my views on what governments and central banks will be doing. But ultimately, the question is what the customers will use. Ultimately, it depends whether this will be something that the inhabitants in the country will be comfortable with, and if this is something that if this is something that will be practical for everyday use of people.
As someone who's worked in the law enforcement, what are some tips that you will give, that you would like to give to people, especially in India, so that they don't end up losing their money?
Yeah, indeed. And of course, I'm not pretending that cryptocurrency is immune to criminal activities. Unfortunately, there are many criminal actors who are using the popular narrative of cryptocurrencies, and they are creating scam websites and different Ponzi schemes and different investment schemes that try to attract naive investors. And unfortunately, many of these platforms are fraudulent from the very beginning. These platforms, their only objective is to to attract people to invest the funds, and in many cases, they actually display the accounts, the balance on the accounts that is growing. They make people invest more and more money, and of course, the people will realize these sites are scams only at the moment when they will not be able to withdraw any funds from the platform. So my advice is, do your own research. Take a look at which platforms are most popular. Take a look at whether these platforms actually are used by millions of people, if these platforms were tested through time, if these platforms can guarantee that they have billions in assets, so that you will decrease your counterparty risk, so that you will decrease the risk